Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at lesson 13. We're going to be adding decimal numbers by converting them to fraction form. So this will give us some practice with understanding some of the different place value and how it relates to decimals and fractions. So for number one, we're going to solve. We're going to first convert tenths into hundredths before finding the sum. Okay, so by going from tenths to hundredths, we're going to get ourselves to a common denominator so that we can add those fractions up. Then we're going to rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form. You can see that problems 1a and 1b are partially completed for us. So here we have 2 and 1/10 plus 3 hundredths. So we convert 2 and 1/10 into 2 and 10 hundredths plus 3 hundredths. Okay, we get 2 and 13 hundredths. Okay, written as a decimal form, we have 2 and 1/10 plus 3 hundredths gets us 2 and 13 hundredths. Okay, letter B, we have 2 and 1/10 plus 5 and 3 hundredths. So we have 2 and 10 hundredths, so that we have both are in hundredths. Now we can go ahead and add. So we see 10 hundredths plus 3 hundredths gets us 13 hundredths. 2 plus 5 gets us 7. All right, written as a decimal now, we have 2 and 1/10 plus 5 and 3 hundredths. Okay, add that up, we get 7 and 13 hundredths. Okay, good. Taking a look at letter C here, now we have to do a little bit more of this on our own. So we have 3 and 24 hundredths, so that stays. Okay, but then we're going to add 7 tenths, so we have to do 70 hundredths. Okay, so now when we go add that up, okay, we have 3 and 94 hundredths. Okay, so 3 and 24 hundredths plus 7 tenths gets us 3 and 94 hundredths. Okay, taking a look at letter D here. Okay, so we have 3 and 24 hundredths. Okay, plus 8, and now we convert 7 tenths into 70 hundredths. Okay, and then we can add those up. We see 3 plus 8 is 11. 24 plus 70, okay, gets us 94. Okay, just like what we did in letter C. Okay, so now 3 and 24 hundredths plus 8 and 7 tenths equals 11 94 hundredths. Okay, all right, number two, we're going to solve, and then we're going to rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form, so much like what we did up top. Okay, so we have 6 and 9/10, okay, which then becomes 6 and 90 hundredths, okay, plus 1 and 10 hundredths. Okay, so we add that up, okay, and you see that 90 hundredths and 10 hundredths get us 1. So now we have 6 plus 1 plus 1, which gets us 8. Okay, so we have 6 and 9/10 plus 1 and 1/10 gets us 8. Okay. All right, so now we take a look at our next one here. We have 9 and 90 hundredths plus 2 and 45 hundredths. Okay, so now we can add these up, and we have 11, and then we have 135 hundredths. Okay, well, our 135 hundredths becomes 1 and 35 hundredths. Okay, so we have a total answer of 12 and 35 hundredths. Okay, so you have your 11 here, plus the 1 that we created from our number bond with 35 hundredths left over. Okay, written as decimal, we have 9 and 9/10 plus 2 and 45 hundredths, okay, would equal 12 and 35 hundredths. Okay, now moving on to letter C. So we have 2 and 40 hundredths plus 8 and 90 hundredths. Okay, so we go through and add that up. 2 plus 8 is 10, and then 40 plus 90 gets us 130 hundredths. Okay, make a number bond, and we get 1 and 30 hundredths. So we have a final answer of 11 and 30 hundredths. Okay. And then written as a decimal, we have 2 and 4/10 plus 8 and 9/10 get us 11 and 3/10. Okay. Letter D, we have 6 and 37 hundredths, okay, plus 7 and 70 hundredths, okay, which gets us 6 plus 7 is 13, and then we have 37 plus 70 gets us 107 hundredths, okay, which can then be renamed into 1 and 7 hundredths. So we have a final answer of 14 and 7 hundredths. Okay, and written as a decimal, 6 and 37 hundredths plus 7 and 7 tenths. Okay, gets us 14 and 7 hundredths. Notice that we have the 0 here in the tenths place. Okay. All right, moving on to our next page here. Okay, be basically following the same directions. We're going to solve by rewriting the number sentence in fraction form. After solving, rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form. Okay, so here we have 6 and 4 tenths plus 5 and 3 tenths. Okay, and that gets us 11 and 7 tenths. So you can see 6 and 4 tenths plus 5 and 3 tenths equals 11 and 7 tenths. Okay, so a pretty quick, easy one to get us started. All right, moving on to letter B here, we have 6 and 62 hundredths. Okay. Now, adding that to 2 and 98 hundredths. Okay. So we know 6 plus 2 is 8. Okay, now we have 62 plus 98. Okay, some larger numbers. So what I'm going to do is up here in my blank space, I'm just going to do 68 plus 98. Or 62 plus 98. Okay, we add these up, okay, and we get 160. So we have 8 and 160 hundredths, okay, which we can rename into 1 and 60 hundredths. So we get 9 and 60 hundredths, okay. And then written as a decimal, we have 6 and 62 hundredths plus 2 and 98 hundredths, okay, gets us 9 and 6 tenths, or 9 and 60 hundredths. Okay, moving on here to letter C. So we have 2 and 10 hundredths. Okay, I'm going to make that 10 hundredths because I have hundredths over here. We're going to add that to 94 hundredths. Okay, so now we get 2 and 104 hundredths. Okay, which we can rename into 1 and 4 hundredths. So we get 3 and 4 hundredths. Okay, and then written as a decimal. Okay. We get 3 and 4 hundredths. Again, notice that 0 that we're using in the tenths place. Okay. All right, so letter D. Okay, very much like letter C. Okay, so we have 2 and 10 hundredths plus 5 and 94 hundredths. So we get 7 and 104 hundredths, and just like what we did with letter C, okay, we can rename it into 1 and 4 hundredths. So our final answer of 8 and 4 hundredths. Okay, and then as a decimal, okay, we get 8 and 4 hundredths. Again, making sure that we put that 0 in the tenths place. Okay, moving on here to letter E. So we have 5 and 7 tenths, which we're going to rename 5 and 70 hundredths, plus 4 and 92 hundredths. Okay, so we have 9, and then 70 plus 92 will get us 162. Okay, which we can then rename into 1 and 62 hundredths. So our final answer becomes 10 and 62 hundredths. Okay, and then written as a decimal. Okay, gets us 10 and 62 hundredths. Okay, moving on here to letter F. So 5 and 68 hundredths plus 4 and 90 hundredths. Okay, I'm going to make sure we get it into hundredths so we have our common denominators. Okay, we go through and add them up. Okay, we get 9 and 158 hundredths, which can then be renamed into 1 and 58 hundredths. Okay, so we get a final answer here of 10 and 58 hundredths. So then written as a decimal. Okay, 5 and 68 hundredths plus 4 and 9 tenths equals 10 and 58 hundredths. Okay, all right. Letter G, we have 4 and 80 hundredths plus 3 and 27 hundredths. Okay, 4 plus 3 is 7. We see 80 plus 27 we know is 107 hundredths. Okay, which can then be renamed. So we get a final answer of 8 and 7 hundredths. Okay, and then written as a decimal. Okay, we get 8 and 7 hundredths. Again, noticing that we have that 0 in the tenths place. Okay. All right, next up we have letter H, so our last one here. So 17 and 60 hundredths plus 3 and 59 hundredths. Okay, so now 17 plus 3 gets us 20. Okay, 60 plus 59, okay, gets us 119 hundredths, which can be renamed 1 and 19 hundredths. So we get 21 and 19 hundredths. Okay, and then written as a decimal. Okay, gets us 21 and 19 hundredths.